Welcome to the live build for Lovable along with n8n. Let's set some expectations correct here, because I've seen a lot of advertisements around this saying that you can create literally anything by using these two platforms. This is really not true. You can build a lot. To be honest, you can build a lot, but you have some limitations, and especially when people phrase it the way that you don't need to know code at all. This takes us to, like, let's suppose this is all the opportunities in the market right now. The majority of people are just going to explore this. It's pretty small. And just by learning like pretty easy concepts, let's say like this code concepts for AI automation. And I understand that you're not going to go through each one of these like and just read through them. They are more for you to explore. Like if I say a term like arrays, and you really don't understand what an array is, you can't wrap your head around that, just come over here and check this out. It's pretty well explained, I suppose. And if it isn't, please let me know in the community that I'll fix it or improve or even make a video off of it. Because these concepts is what will allow you to explore a lot more. That's kind of what I'm trying to illustrate here. You can explore a lot more, especially with these core concepts. And you will only access those core concepts when you see an actual build. So from these live builds or from the videos that I post where I have these workflows, you'll see that I go through some specific concepts. I will basically assume that you know what a JSON is, right? And if you don't understand what it is, or if you don't understand its application in a specific node, or let's say I have this premium outlier alert where I have a lot of code nodes, there are these codes right here. I did not make any of these codes, but I understand the concepts behind them. So I just asked ChatGPT, I asked Gemini, Claude, any of those to build that for me. But that's just because I understand the concept. I understand what I need to create and how it needs to be created. And by watching these live builds, by watching these type of contents, and by interacting inside of the community is what will allow you to actually get to this point right here, where it's not being explored. To be honest, like this is not being explored. Yeah, I was just recording, and yeah, the recording just stopped, and I don't know where I left it off, but I think you got the idea of why it's so important for you to understand the core concepts and how you should actually interact for allowing you to explore a lot more from your niche, a lot more from AI, from n8n itself, from these platforms like Lovable. So yeah, let's get started. First thing I have is n8n. So there's this premium outlier workflow, which I'm not going to be building right now. You already have access to this inside of n8n workflows, YouTube outlier videos identifier. Basically what this does is you provided a list of YouTube channels. It fetches those YouTube channels IDs and then uses those IDs with the YouTube API to fetch for each videos from those channels. It stores all the videos inside of a database. And that's where I thought, okay, if I have a populated database, and you can see this database right over here, right here, it has 607 items. These can be used. Like I want to expose those in an interface. I want to actually see all of the videos from my competitors. That's all I want. So first of all, like let's keep it pretty simple for now. We can evolve this to a point where we can provide authentication, we can provide rate limiting. For now, let's just get one endpoint right. And this endpoint should allow us to order by date. It should have a pagination and should have a caching system. So like just these three should be sufficient to provide value. You can use this as a lead magnet. You can even place like ads inside of this a platform like this. I mean, your creativity really is the limit. This is actually the feature, like order by date. The rest here is just the technology behind how we can make the user experience better. Because if I have, let's write it down here, 607 different items, and these, let's suppose these are each one of the videos, I don't want to render all of these items over to the user at first, because that will just make the experience pretty awful. It will be a lot for it to render. What I'm going to do, and let's go over to TubeLab. Let's see what it brings us up for us here. TubeLab, access your panel, ideas finder. I think it's this right here. We're creating a really simple version of what this website is. But this is an idea of something that you can create. Like this website by itself has up to, yeah, nearly 20,000 monthly visits. Let's see its price. I really don't know. Here, pricing. So it's charging $29 a month on the monthly plan. Yearly, it's $19 a month. We can get to this point just with n8n and Lovable. Like, not exactly this technology at this speed, obviously. I know the developer from this project, like he actually built a pretty solid thing. But if we create, let's say, if we create 1/4 of what this is, and it is possible to create 1/4, well, it's 1/4 from 20. We can charge $5 a month. And that's already something. And I'm just assuming this is a SaaS creation. I'm not even assuming that you can create things to help you in your own business, which is why I created this outlier workflow for myself. What it does, and let's go over to my Telegram. If I play something like help, it then sends me back like some options. So all outliers or updated outliers. If I click on all outliers, it will give me all the outlier videos from the past 2 weeks. If I go back and click on updated outliers, it will give me the ones that it didn't send me already. So yeah, that's all it does, and it already provides a lot of value for me. And some YouTubers won't know how to create this. Like not some, the majority won't know how to create this. And you can offer this for them and make money with it. Or just use it for yourself like I'm doing. So I went through a ramification of ideas. But what I wanted to show from TubeLab is this. If you scroll down, see that it starts loading right here? That's what we want to accomplish, because this just makes the user experience way better, okay? Not only the user experience, but for the server, like the server load, you're actually like not fetching a lot of things. You're not fetching the database multiple times, especially when you use caching, and it's just faster overall. So this webhook, we're going to change it to /API/ video statistics. Nice. I have my notes right here on the left. Let me check that. It should respond only when the respond webhook node is activated. Let's add that. Respond to webhook. Cool. So I can save that. I can open up CMD. Let's go over to the actual webhook. The path is that. Let's get the production URL, copy it. Now that is active. What I want to place in here is curl x get, and then place in the actual URL. If I do that, now I get back exactly my fetch. Like how did I fetch that? The exact structure. We don't want to save that for now. And one thing I like to do is just go over to my workflow where I created the table. And this table was created exactly like this. So ID, view count, like count, comment count, publish time. We have all those data, and these data can be found inside of the database. That's perfect. What I did initially was just send this over to Claude. I asked Claude, okay, I want to build an endpoint that uses pagination as well as, actually, instead of me just saying this, let's actually do it. Let's use ChatGPT. I'll send over, this is how I created my tables. Nice, we have everything in there. And then please get me a curl for me to use to fetch. Let's remove this because it's really not relevant at this point. Video data should be. And then, like, if you really don't know any technical terms like to ask for, just say, actually specify this to the LLM. So I'd say something like, I want to build a filter system with all the videos from this table. And then, so yeah, you should specify that here that you want it to come back paginated. want to use pagination. If you don't specify that you want to use pagination, you could potentially just say, I want this to be smooth and fast for the user, and then maybe the LLM would understand that you would likely need to use pagination, but maybe it won't. So just knowing that you should use pagination should be cool. I want to use pagination, and yeah, I don't think we need to inform it about caching in here. So just by doing this, you'll get this right here. And then it starts telling you like a lot of things that you don't want, because the only thing you want is the curl. And there's an authorization in here. You can ignore that because we're not going to set up the authorization for now. Let's open this. Let's CLS. Here's the thing. If you send this over, you'll just, wait. You need to use your actual URL. Let's open up Notepad. Let's place that in there. Let's get our production URL and place it right in here. Nice. So now, if I fetch this, that's what we got back. We can go over to executions, copy this data, go back to the editor, pin that down. Okay. Now that we have that data, we can understand what the query is, like what is it expecting. And then from that, we can move on to instructing and actually building the entire workflow. Since I've done this before, let me get what I did before right over here and paste it down here. What I want is, I want to specify the page, the limit, sort field is by view count, for example. The sort order could be ascendant, the minimum views could be 50, and that's all. Like these are all the filters I want to add. Let's save that, save this, and now let's organize the data we receive. Once again, I built this part just using an LLM. It's this entire code right here. All this code is really doing is organizing our own structure. Like we don't want to send the data from this webhook over to the database, nor over to Redis, which is going to be our caching system. If you have any questions, you can learn from these comments right here, which actually helped me when I was developing, because I didn't understand one thing. I don't think it's in this node, but I didn't understand how Claude came up with a specific line of code, and then these comment sections, they really help. What this is doing is creating this cache key. This cache key is created based on how the user fetched for that data. It's using the page, limit, sort field, sort order. What this does is basically, okay, if a user asks for, if I at some point get a request where it says, I want, and I'm really taking this to words, but this is all done through a JSON. I want 5 videos from the channel X, right? Once this is used, instead of my system going over, like receiving this message, understanding, okay, and then going over to the database, fetching that data, then fixing that data up, getting it correctly structured, and then sending it back to the user. Instead of all this happening, if this was fetched before, I could just fetch it. I could just, instead of understanding this and going to the OK part, I could just cache. I could just understand that this was fetched before and use the cache, and then the cache would just respond back. So I wouldn't have to go over to the database. This would be faster, as I explained what the caching part was before. The thing is, I have to structure this. I have to instruct my caching system what was expected, what was the user fetching for. And at least this was the solution that I came to. I have the code node, structures everything up, specifies what is the pagination, specifies everything, and now I want to store this inside of Redis. You can select any one of these. Just what we want to do is get. The name of the field will be, so let's run this before just to see what happens. Redis won't work. Test. Okay, let's save. Now Redis is in there. Now I can see what was the last run from the last node's run. And I can get the cache key, place it in there. I can get this other cache key, place it in there. This just specifies that I'm searching for this key, name of the key that you want to retrieve from Redis. And then this name will just place it as I want, like the correct structure in here. Okay, so if I run a test setup, you'll see that we have a null result. Why? Because this wasn't stored before in Redis. If we execute this again, test workflow, this is still not registered in Redis. Why? Because we didn't create a set node. Let's do that right over here. Actually, before we actually create the set node, we have to structure everything up. So first thing is the cache decision. We have to understand if there is a cache or if there isn't. If there is a cache, we're going to use this code right here. And again, I created this node using an LLM. It's all pretty well described. But essentially what this is doing is understanding if there is a cache. And if there is, we're going to use that data and just respond back to the webhook. We're going to do something like this. There's an if. This code node right here, it has a cache data from cache. So every time it finds a cache hit, it understands that there's a cache. It then follows on to specifying that it found a cache, and that object was from a cache. So what we can do in the if is specify that from the last node, if from cache is equal to a boolean of false, you'll get this red marker right here, but that isn't a problem because from this point on, it will work just fine. It'll be red like this, but don't bother a lot with that because let's save that, test workflow. It'll continue on and go to the true route of this. But if we did have a cache hit, it would go on to the false route, at which we can just send the data over to as a response to the webhook. So when we're in this true route, let's find Postgres execute SQL query. We're going to get exactly this, which can seem kind of frightening, but again, this was all fetched from an LLM. But all this is really doing is understanding that I have these filters. I have a database. So if you give this context over to the LLM of how is your database structured, what are the filters required, it will create this query pretty easily for you. Maybe like at this point, it understood that it's inside n8n. So remember to give that context also, because then it will provide you with the inline data and code for you to follow on. So the first thing it'll need is that. The other part it'll need is Postgres execute SQL query. Let's get this right here, which will just count how much data you have. From there on, let's merge everything. Let me get this, get that. Have everything merged at this point. After everything is merged, now we want to get to a final response. Let's create another code node. Everything pretty much explained in here. Save that, and after this code node, let's output it back to the webhook. So test workflow, everything seemed to have worked properly. Let's test it using our bash again. Nice. So it got back all, I don't know if it's all of them because I filtered it. Yeah. All the videos based on the filter we selected. So that's awesome. This is really all you have to do inside of n8n to expose your database. Obviously, this should be more secure. There is no security in here, so anyone that accesses this endpoint, just like I did, will have access to not exactly your database, but will have access to something that hits your database. So you could receive a DDoS attack by someone that would just keep doing this forever. And every time you do this, it's a cost for you. So at some point, we will have to expand more on how to use JWT, how to provide authentication and all, but don't worry a lot with this. If you have any issues with a lot of people going inside of your website and at some point you're getting attention at scale, then now your problem is handling a successful build you made. So congratulations. Okay, so let's go over to Lovable. Lovable will have to specify a pretty nice prompt. To do that, what we can figure out here is, okay, we can get this because even though in the curl we didn't place these filters for channel ID, for sent status, date from, date to, minimum views, all this can be used for the LLM. Let's design this right here. So please design a curl where I use all of the possible filters. It will design it just like this. I don't really know if that's right. Yeah, this doesn't seem to be right. I only want the filters because the pagination part, like this isn't really informed. Or is it? You can send that first code right there also, based off of this JavaScript code that shows received data from the webhook is proper curl. Okay, and then I pass on my URL. This is my endpoint. Nice, we got this. Let's copy that, go over here, let's clear that out, send the same one, paste anyway. I don't think this will work. Yeah, maybe now. Bad host name. Let's send this over. I think this is just a matter of a character because of Windows and all. Yeah, Windows command prompt doesn't accept this character right here. Let's send that over again. Cool. I didn't get any data because probably the date, so 2024, and the videos I have is just from the past 3 months. So yeah, it's all correct. Cool. So now I have, let's note that down. Now I have a curl of exactly everything I can fetch from my endpoint. With this enhance, I can start designing my prompts that I'll send over to Lovable. Now I have to instruct how the data comes back, because then Lovable will understand what it'll have access to. Yeah, that didn't work. Okay, nice. The data comes back like this. Okay. Position each video as a card. Okay. I assume this should be pretty good because now the LLM has the entire context to use. Let's erase this. Okay, so please create a web interface with a new brutalizer style and design that shows the YouTube videos from my competitors. You will fetch for it using this endpoint. Okay, this is an example of a curl that can be used. Place that in here. In the main dashboard, don't filter anything. Just fetch for all of the videos. Remember to place a limit because of pagination. Also create a very well-performing pagination that works on scroll. When the user gets to a certain part of the page, it then fetches for 10 more results and displays it. While it's fetching, use skeletons in the UI to demonstrate the loading process. The data comes back like this. Position each video as a card with its respective thumbnail and all the information available. Nice. Okay, let's see how it performs. Wow, I really like this. Like when like the reasoning part of AI, really enjoy it. We actually like understand what's going on behind the scenes. And I'm thinking through what we could do at this point, but really don't know. I think everything is already set. Like we have the premium part. Not premium part. We have the endpoint that's returning every data. This is so cool. I love this. If I scroll down, it loads more. Wow, this is so cool. Wow, this is just, guys, this was one shot. I expected to be harder. Like this should be harder. I'm speechless, to be honest. This was free. I was assuming that it would take more prompts, and then I would eventually pay for Lovable, but it got everything pretty right. I did use Lovable before, but it was like 2 months ago, and it wasn't this good, to be honest. So I noticed that we get YouTube video and then like a strange character, but that's probably because I don't have the YouTube name, like the video name, the title. Yeah, it's exactly because of that. So yeah, what's happening? Okay, so just to be sure, just for the sake of prompting something more, let's do the following. There is no need to show the YouTube title. Nice, all removed. And then there's a channel ID, which if I click on it, I go over to the channel ID. This is perfect, guys. I'm still a bit speechless. So yeah, let's go through everything we did here. So we created the endpoint. This endpoint has specific needs. So first of all is filtering. We have to understand what we can filter from our database, and we can just give the context of how our database was created, how the tables were created over to an LLM. The LLM will then understand and produce this query right here, which fetches the videos based on those filters and moves them on responding the webhook. To make it faster, we're using Redis to just cache everything. And if we fetch, let's check the executions just to like see how this is being performed. Actually, we're not using the caching here. I forgot. Let's place Redis. So this should be even faster. Let's place Redis right here. Place the set. This set will use exactly this, okay? And the value will be this right here. Let me explain what this is, like what's happening here. At first, I just got the data like this, but you have to stringify it because the key type here will be string, right? If I do that, then I'll have to place JSON stringify so that I can convert a JSON over to a string. If I do this, you'll notice that down here, I'm considering, like, I'm also using the pagination. I don't want to save that. I don't want to cache my pagination, right? So to avoid that, all I do is .data, not .data. What is it? It's not .data, so it should be. Oh no, the .data is already considered. Okay, that's right. Then what I want to get from the .data is, yeah, the first element, that right there. If I get the first element, then that's in right there. This isn't really a JSON because you don't have this wrapped around it, which is that. And then let me remember, okay, it was data. So I just place in data like that. Done. Now it's an actual JSON. That, if I save it, let's run once. So test workflow, you'll see that it successfully set the key, like this key right here. Let me use the Redis node, get value. Let's go back here. Let me get this. You'll see that I have successfully saved that. But I don't want to save that forever. I want it to eventually expire. So 3,600 seconds is equal to what? Seconds in minutes is an hour. Great. So this is what happens. It understands that it's cached from Redis, identifies that, and sends that directly back to the webhook. Maybe you won't see that speed here. So let's try to publish this. So publish, and actually see this like in the website. It should be even faster. Okay, let's access it. Nice. That was the time it took to load the first time. Remember that. Now, if I access it from another place, okay, seems to be, see, it's a bit faster, but with more data, this just becomes an essential need. Scroll back up, F5, F5, F5. there's a bit of caching from the browser here, so I'm kind of cheating. But the server should be faster, simply because, see, like I hit test workflow, it's not going through the other part of the workflow. Right, so we get all that done. After we get that done, we understand what the webhook, wait, let me see, what is this response? Data, why is it getting just one item? Probably because, yeah. Let's get executions. Let's get something that was called from the production. They should make this easier, like this part of getting a previous fetch. Note that down there, save. Okay, this was the call from Lovable. Test workflow, okay, it went through that direction. What did it return? Okay, it returned these videos right here. Now test workflow again, it shouldn't have done that. Let's see what happened. So actually it wasn't caching because I set a static value in here. And even though I'm placing a static value now, I changed the name of how I store it to cached. So that should be much better. If I change the name there, I feel like should be fine. Okay. Test workflow again. It went to the false route, which is all cached. Now if I F5 this, it fetched once. If I F5 again, now it's definitely faster. And why that? If you look inside of the executions, you'll see that it should be using the cache version every time, as soon as it loads. See, the first time it probably didn't use it. Let's see, no, it used it because I did fetch it before down here, so nice. This was the result. Tube Spy competitor video intelligence. That's pretty awesome. If you scroll down, it should appear everything just fine. Okay, let me scroll back up, F5, scroll down, so much faster. I hope this kind of live build was insightful because my recording stopped a few times. I'm still getting a hang of live builds. Please let me know what I can do to help to improve this. And yeah, I'll see you in the community. Till then.